If you're a fan of the sitcom Taxi from the 70s, you may remember one episode where Alex said to Jim that not all blueberries are blueberries. So let me explain. So last year I was kicked out of an unplugged woodworking group on Facebook for mentioning the word electricity. Apparently the administrators were so anal that even mentioning the word electricity was grounds from getting barred from the group. Anyway, what I asked was, could an electric lathe be considered a hand tool? Now, there are power tools and there are hand tools, and I think everyone has an idea of which is which. But to really fully examine my question, which is intended to spark debate and good-natured dialogue, not any rude comments, we have to first look at power tools and what they do for you. So let's start off by examining two power tools that I have in my shop, my bandsaw and my lathe. How do we use a bandsaw? Let's say we want to cut a piece of wood in half. We take a pencil, we draw a line on it, and then we take the piece of wood and we push it through the bandsaw, which cuts it in half for us, leaving us with two pieces of wood that have been cut perfectly square, and there's really no more that we need to do to it. Now let's take a look at the lathe. You have your square wood piece, you put it in your chucks, make sure everything's tight, turn it on, leave it a couple minutes, and boom. You have your spindle all nice and curvy, just the way you want it. That is obviously not how a lathe works. You have to use chisels to make the shape that you want on the lathe, to turn your spindle. All the lathe does is provide the power to spin that spindle for you. It's much different from the bandsaw. What a bandsaw does is enables you to make a cut without the use of one of these. In other words, all you have to do is push the wood through the bandsaw and it does the work for you. You could have someone that doesn't know how to use a handsaw, but they could still make a straight cut on the bandsaw. See, a lathe doesn't do that for you. And that's why I consider a lathe to be a hand tool, because you're still using hand tools, chisels, to do the work. Now, is it a power tool? Yes, of course. Electricity is what turns the spindle for you. Now, it's not a treadle lathe, so you don't have to pump it with your foot. So in that respect, is an electric lathe easier to use than a medieval lathe, like a treadle lathe, for example? Yes, absolutely, because it takes more skill to pump with your foot while you're turning the spindle, so of course. But it doesn't do anything for you except turn the wood. Therefore, I consider a lathe to be a hand tool, because you're using hand tools to create your piece of work. So I think a lot of people will give me crap for that, but that's my opinion, and I take it to you to decide. Look, I used power tools for many, many years before I got into traditional woodworking. They're fine. If you want to use them, they're great. They speed things up, especially if you're a professional carpenter or a cabinet maker. You need production. You need to make things fast so that you can earn money. I get that. I understand it. You know, I do traditional woodworking as a hobby, so speed is really not that important to me. The clients that do ask me to make stuff, they're willing to wait for it, so that's not a problem. Also, you know, if I'm building a closet in a spare bedroom, it's a lot easier to use power tools than it is to use hand tools. My wife won't get upset because I'm taking 6 months to build a closet when it could be done in a weekend. So I get the use of power tools. Also, you know, there are people out there that have debilitating injuries and want to continue woodworking, and for them, sometimes power tools are the only choice. So I say that's great. If you want to use power tools, that's fine. My main point today is to point out why I think an electric lathe is a hand tool. So if you see on my videos, you know, something that says, you know, all made with hand tools only or something like that, and then you click on it and you see that there are turned legs, I don't want you to get put off. I want you to understand that I consider an electric lathe to be a hand tool, and that I made those spindles, I made those legs with my hands, with chisels. There wasn't a machine that did the work for me. It required skill to do it, so I consider it a hand tool. That's it. Discuss amongst yourselves, as they used to say on Saturday Night Live, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.